The Utah Jazz have recently been slated in a Bleacher Report article to possibly be the trade suitors to go along with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Being that Mikal Bridges has just been traded to the New York Knicks, it kind of set the asking price in the expected haul that could be received in exchange for a player of Lauri Markkanen's caliber. I believe that it is a relatively fair thing to say, considering that Lauri Markkanen is an elite shooter similar to Mikal Bridges. He's not necessarily a number one or maybe a preferred number two player on a championship contender, but as a number three, he's terrific, to be quite honest with you, and he doesn't take away from the shots of the star players on the team. While I am always a proponent for keeping Lauri Markkanen in some way, it just seems like things are going to be less likely to happen as time continues on, because after Mikal Bridges got sent to the New York Knicks and it came out that he didn't plan on going anywhere else but to the Knicks, there aren't very many players across the league, particularly at the wing position, that it makes sense for the Utah Jazz to get. And if the Utah Jazz feel like there's not a particular situation where there's a wing or a point guard that is elite enough to help push the needle to make them a genuine contender this offseason, as Danny Ainge said with his big game hunting quote, then I just don't see the entire point of keeping Lauri and making him suffer yet another year, when you could send him to a team that would genuinely appreciate having him. And judging from the fact that OKC just finished the regular season as a number one seed and they obviously ended up losing later on in the playoffs, many people considered them to be right there at the cusp of having what is necessary. And considering the fact that they just traded away Josh Giddey, who was ineffective in the playoffs, for Alex Caruso to increase their perimeter defense and also allow for better perimeter shooting and floor spacing, I think that it does make sense for them to go ahead and make a move to try and get Lauri Markkanen. The trade that was suggested by Bleacher Report goes as follows. The Thunder would trade Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, the number 12 pick in the 2024 draft, which by the time you're receiving this video, you'll know whether that pick ended up happening, along with the top 6 protected Philadelphia 76ers pick in 2025 and the 2026 first round pick from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, there is a little bit of wiggle room available for them to make a certain deal happen because, of course, the Oklahoma City Thunder have $1.5 million picks to move around, and maybe the players don't necessarily perfectly match up, but you want to be able to get something that's promising from their team in the deal, along with the draft compensation that's necessary to go ahead and go into a full rebuild, as we've seen the Nets decide that they're going to do. I'm not necessarily the highest on Keyonte George in general, particularly at the point guard spot, but if they manage to nab Stephon Castle or even honestly Rob Dillingham in this draft, them alongside Taylor Hendricks, I do particularly enjoy, and then Keyonte George can move back to the off guard position, which is more preferred for himself specifically. Now, for those that don't remember how good Lauri Markkanen was this season, despite being held out and some people feel as though he was injured most of his games, I'm a proponent for later on in the season, especially when he was sitting out sporadically, that he actually was not hurt, but also because they wanted to secure a better draft pick, they decided that, since he's had some lingering issues, let's just go ahead and rest him a couple games here and there, which makes it seem like he's more injury prone than he actually is. But overall, this season, he played in 55 games and started in all of them, obviously, playing 33.1 minutes per game and scoring 23.2 points, grabbing 8.2 rebounds, nabbing 2 assists, 0.9 steals, 0.5 blocks, and shooting 48% from the field and 39.9% from three-point range to go along with 89.9% from the free throw line, which totals him at 63.1% true shooting, which honestly is great for a stretch big, especially with the fact that he is a 7-footer that also stands at the weight of 240 pounds. So he has a sturdy frame, but he's not out of shape or putting too much weight on his body, laboring when he's going up and down the court. He has a smooth and silky way about playing his game. He doesn't take away possessions from other players, and he's just overall a very strong team-centric player to have. Lauri Markkanen has stated before that he doesn't particularly enjoy massive cities that have the booming metropolises so that he and his family have to stay in apartment housing or in high-rises, which is completely understandable. And I do believe that Oklahoma City Thunder, while it isn't necessarily the most small market team in the world, they do have the opportunity to allow him to get a genuine home for his family if the time does come and that trade is inked. I do expect the Utah Jazz to go ahead and extend him. And then if a trade happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I think there's going to be a couple asterisks or contingencies based on what his role is going to be this upcoming season specifically, because you don't want to keep Lauri Markkanen at the expense of potentially gaining Cooper Flagg, especially considering that Lauri Markkanen is kind of the older piece on this roster, admittedly just 27, but still on the higher end of the spectrum as far as age goes. You don't want to waste too many more years of his time, especially when you ended up gaining him in a deal for Donovan Mitchell that saw a massive haul of picks, when you could also potentially flip him for a massive haul of picks. And Danny Ainge has been a proponent for gaining as many draft picks as possible, but at some point you have to decide if you're going to be a competitive team or you're going to be complete dog water, to be quite frank, and begin the complete and entire rebuild process, as I previously stated that we're seeing from the Nets when they decided to go ahead and trade Mikal Bridges for literally 5 picks as well as a pick swap. Things really don't get any sweeter than that, and if Lauri Markkanen is having a similar marketplace value according to NBA executives as Mikal Bridges, then I think that he would be worth at least 4 picks at the very least. Lauri Markkanen will always be a beloved member of the Utah Jazz community because he did grow up, blossom, and express at the highest level that he enjoyed being a pillar in the Utah community and just representing Salt Lake City specifically. He enjoyed having his family there, and he gained his current lone all-star appearance within the city. So it stands to reason that he would love to stay here for as long as possible. But you also don't want to waste good talent when good talent is in front of you, especially if it gets in the way of your potential future success down the road. Either way, this offseason is going to be big for the Utah Jazz because this is the time where that front office has to decide, are they going to go big game hunting and actually make something happen? Or are you going to go ahead and bottom out and rebuild from the ashes of what once was? With that being said, thanks for tuning in this video. Go ahead and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think Lauri Markkanen should be traded? Do you want him to be traded? Or do you think that is just likely to happen? Also, let me know who you would like to see the Utah Jazz end up taking in this draft, or if you're already having your eyes ahead to next draft and it doesn't happen to be Cooper Flagg, who else do you think has caught your eye? Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and become a member of the channel to help support the content. And as always, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.